Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is John Huberger Jr., and on behalf of the League of Women Voters, Teton County Library, Jackson Hole News and Guide, KHOL, and tonight for sure, Planet Jackson Hole, we'd like to welcome you to this forum. There'll be two parts to it. We begin with the Teton Conservation District, and we will talk about that in just a second, and then we will transition with after a short break to the bulk of the evening will be the school board. So we will transition from 2 contesting candidates to 8 at that one, so that's going to be an interesting challenge. I want to remind you before I go any further, though, that this is the second of 4 forums, and next Wednesday night we will have the House District 22 and St. John's Medical Center Board, and then next Thursday we will have the town mayor and the town council candidates up here, so in a very, very similar format. I'd like to introduce a few people. Our media representative is Meg Daly from The Planet. Sitting next to her is Reed Dornan, who League of Women Voters will be capturing materials from 3x5 cards, questions from the audience. And Karen Jerger, sitting here. Ring the bell, Karen. So hopefully nobody will hear that this evening, but if they do, it means that it's time to wrap it up and move on to the next question. The process tonight will be that we will have a question from our media representative, initially from Meg, and then there will be a question from the audience, and there are 2 ways to pose a question. We've got Sarah and Gabriella in the back here, standing by the doors. They have 3x5 cards and pencils, and Reed's got one right there right now, a blank one. But if you'd like to pose a question that way, please get one of the cards. I see some people have one, fill it out, and get it to Sarah or Gabriella. The other way is the possibility of coming up and voicing a question directly through the mic here. If somebody chooses to do that, I only ask that you ask a question. This is not an opportunity to begin a dialogue or state a position. It's really an opportunity to ask a short question. What we're trying to do is maximize the amount of time that our candidates have to respond. So hopefully that's clear. And unlike last night, hopefully I won't have to say, is there a question there? In all of that. So we will begin tonight first with a 2-minute introduction about the Teton Conservation District by Sandy Shuptrine. Then we will go to Bailey Schreiber, who is uncontested in running for her seat. So she will not stay up here, but she will give a 2-minute introduction about herself, or however she wants to introduce her desire to be on the Conservation District. And then we will go to the candidates, and they will give an introduction, 90-second introduction, and then we will begin the Q&A, and it'll just go back and forth. We'll begin with Meg, then we'll take an audience question one way or the other, and we'll go back to the reporter, and so forth like that. So without further ado, I would like to turn the floor over to Ms. Shuptrine.
Thank you, John. I am Sandy Shuptrine. I'm a sitting supervisor on the board of the Teton Conservation District, and I'm also a member of the League of Women Voters and helping put this together. Our director, Tom Segerstrom, is in Gillette attending a Wyoming Wildlife Society conference and asked me to just say a few words about what the Conservation District is. And the Conservation District is an outgrowth of actually the Dust Bowl back in the 30s. And when the U.S. Department of Agriculture began to do outreach across the country, and especially the West, to try to deal with some of the impacts of that period of time. In 1946, our local conservation district was formed here in Teton County, and the mission of in association with the Wyoming Department of Agriculture. The mission of the Conservation District is to promote conservation and management of natural resources, air, land, water, vegetation, and wildlife through watershed-based research, education, conservation practices, cooperative projects, and on-the-ground actions to ensure the health and general welfare of the people and resources of this area. So with that, I'd like to turn it back over to John.
And I am going to turn it over immediately to Bailey Schreiber to go ahead and give you her 2-minute summary statement.
Thank you, John. Thanks, Andy. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for the opportunity to be here. I am Bailey Schreiber. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Me now? I was appointed to be a supervisor on the Teton Conservation District a little over a year ago. So I'm running now to serve a full term. Over the last year, one of the things that I've really valued about the Teton Conservation District is its role in the community as a collaborator and as bringing a lot of different agencies, the town, the county, federal agencies, stakeholders, individuals in the community to the table to talk about, address natural resource issues, to seize opportunities. A lot of folks don't know that the Teton Conservation District isn't just Teton County. It's not the Teton County Conservation District. Our jurisdiction is Teton County, Grand Teton National Park, and Yellowstone National Park. So because our jurisdiction is so broad, we have an opportunity to work with a wide variety of stakeholders, including federal agencies and local government. So I think that we can continue being that collaborative partner in addressing natural resource issues in the region. Another thing I think the Conservation District does a really good job of is serving as a repository for information and data relating to natural resources and natural resource management in the region. One thing I don't think we do a great job of is bragging about the fact that we do that, and I think we can do a much better job of advertising that, of spreading the word about what exactly the Teton Conservation District does, that we are a resource for the public and that we have a wide variety of information and data, and we can also serve a role in planning both at the county level, the town level, and using the information and the data that we have to conduct that planning. So I'm really excited about serving a full term on the Teton Conservation District, and I'm looking forward to what Travis and Tom have to talk about this evening. I'm glad I'm not in their shoes, so. Thanks so much.
All right, and I probably should have asked our candidates to watch Karen here. She will have cards that gives you an indication of when you're getting close to running out of time. And we are scheduled, at least in theory, to close this session at 6:30. We'll stay pretty close to that, so we do want to move this along pretty quickly. So I am going to ask Meg to pose the first question to, I'm sorry, introduction. So 90-second introduction, then Meg will ask the first question. So why don't, you've got the microphone, Travis, so go ahead.
I'm Travis Zeal. I'm originally from Casper, Wyoming. Stop me if you've heard this one. Moved here 12 years ago, planned to stay for a season, fell in love with the incredible community and natural resources we have in Teton County. I grew up north of Casper, helped out a lot on my grandparents' farm and ranch. I credit that agricultural upbringing with a strong work ethic and a passion for seeing things through to the end. While I'm running against Mr. Campbell, I don't consider myself running against Mr. Campbell. I'm running for an opportunity to serve the citizens of Teton County on the Conservation District Board. He has done a fantastic job of that as well and currently serves as their treasurer.
Thank you, Travis. My name is Tom Campbell. As Travis said, I'm presently a supervisor of the Conservation District, have been since the last election 4 years ago. I am the treasurer of the Conservation District and have been for almost 3 years now. I came to Jackson in 1975. Very briefly, just a little bit of personal history in case you're interested. Not raise a red flag and I'll stop. But I'm employed by an environmental consulting company here in town. I have a fishery and wildlife undergraduate and graduate degree. As part of my profession, I interacted with the Conservation District with regularity. And seeing the work that they did and the good work that they did always interested me, and their mission in particular. I chose 4 years ago to go for the at-large seat, was successful, and I've thoroughly enjoyed my stay with the board and hope to continue that for 4 more years. I think I bring a different bent to the board, a conservation, environmental, wildlife, and fishery perspective that is useful, and I look forward to serving again. Thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you for sponsoring it, League of Women Voters, and all the other sponsors. Thank you.
Hang on to the microphone. We'll let Meg ask you the first question.
Okay. The first question really will have you maybe say a little bit more where you were already going, both of you. Just if you could tell us why you are running for a seat as a Conservation District Supervisor.
Well, as I said, I've been on it for 4 years. I kind of have my eyes wide open in terms of what's needed, what's expected of board members. We have monthly meetings, but that's only a very small part of the responsibility. There's a lot of interaction with staff, and we have a multitude of projects ongoing at any given time. And so it's my opportunity to get back to the community, and as I said, to bring my expertise as a conservationist, if you will, environmentalist, if you will, but a professional one. You know, as I said, I'm just giving back to the community, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
I spent 12 years working for Teton County Weed and Pest, another special district just like the Conservation District, battling invasive species in Teton County. Some of the projects that I'm the most proud of in this area are projects that were a fully integrated plan, which included an element of restoration and revegetation ecology. Those sites like South Park Feed Ground and some of the work that was along Flat Creek, I still go back to those sites fondly and just have seen change and improvement in habitat and ecosystem from controlling the invasives and restoring it with native vegetation. With that said, that's an organization that the Conservation District was an organization that we were partnered with on all of those projects, and it was working with those guys that made me want to take part and take a bigger part strategically for the Conservation District in support of those programs as well as other things that we will be discussing tonight.
You don't have any cards yet, Reed?
These are not.
Is there anybody from the audience that would like to step up and ask a quick question of our candidates?
Looks like we have a card coming up.
Okay.
How do you envision supporting the development of the LDRs that pertain to natural resources of Teton County? Good question.
Yeah. So you get this one first, then Travis.
I think the Conservation District Board of Supervisors is, with the land development regulations, is primarily dictating that to staff with the idea that the strategic vision of the board is implemented through what the staff is engaging in the planning process. The Teton Conservation District employees work very diligently with the planning department to ensure that the best natural resource decisions are made and the most recent and sound science is implemented in our planning process.
Thank you. How long do we have to answer?
90 seconds.
90 seconds. Good question. The Conservation District has identified interaction with the county and providing input on the LDRs as one of their 6 priorities. To date, I can't say that the Conservation District has contributed greatly to that effort, not for lack of interest and lack of trying. But the county planning department is well into their land development regulation revision, and we offer our staff's expertise, which is substantive, and we'll talk about that at some point in time, I'm sure. But the opportunity hasn't availed itself yet for us to have much influence over the land development regulations as they're being generated internally. Having said that, the Conservation District staff is often involved in review of development proposals. In fact, by statute, we're required to do that. Whether the planning department takes our suggestions, our advice, is up to them, but we certainly do review a number of development proposals, and in those reviews, we often speak to the LDRs and how things might be different. So.
All right, Travis has exercised his one-time, 1-minute response to the same question.
I'd just like to add to that, as we know, the LDRs work in conjunction with the comprehensive plan that was passed in 2012. And to me, the first vision or the first community priority of the comprehensive plan was having an intact ecosystem for everyone to enjoy that contributes to our quality of life. Without having a county agency in charge of environmental quality, sometimes our conservation district has stepped into that role and provided the environmental quality. And in addition to that, they also serve and lead in stewardship and conveying that to people as our extension agents, our extension offices have been rolled back.
Okay, the next question will come from our media representative, Meg Daly.
Okay.
And Tom, you will have the first response to this one.
Do you agree with the Teton Conservation District strategic plan? And if so, what would be your priorities?
The first part of your question, yes, definitely. I was instrumental, as were the other 4 supervisors, in designing that strategic plan, and it had unanimous support by the Board of Supervisors. I made reference to the 6 areas that really come out of our strategic plan, 6 areas of focus and interest, those being wildlife, water resources, the county and the LDR end of things, agriculture, sustainability and restoration, and to be honest, I always, let me check one more, agriculture, if I didn't say that. So water, wildlife, agriculture, mapping and GIS. So these are 6 priority areas, but in addition to that, we have some sub-focuses that are in some ways equally important. That's the noxious weeds that Travis mentioned a moment ago when he indicated he used to work for Weed and Pest, wildland fire, and the interface and reducing the likelihood of fires affecting private land ownership, and community education. So all of those things are important, and I called out specifically in the strategic plan.
I completely agree with Mr. Campbell. The six important points outlined in the strategic plan are what are going to continue to contribute to the quality of life in Teton County that we all enjoy and the protection of our natural resources. I just don't know how you cannot be in support of that. The one thing that I would say is in agreement with Bailey, the Conservation District should do a better job of letting people know what they're doing and how good of a job that they're doing in this community, because it is substantial. They have the hardest working staff, their board is exceptionally committed, and they're doing a quality job.
All right, the next question will come first to Travis. It will be from the audience. Is there anybody that would like to come up and voice a verbal question? If not, I think Reed has at least one card over there. Reed, please.
Right. Here's the question. Should Mr. Campbell's organization, Biota, its serious failure to produce the quote-unquote focal habitat feature study for the county be an important consideration when we choose whom to vote for in this related board? If yes or no, why and how? So, should the study focal habitat feature be an important consideration when it was a failed study?
I'm going to say no. I think it's going to be the content of our character, our passion for conservation issues, and just the will to make the citizens of Teton County aware of the importance of conservation and the lead that our conservation district has taken with the help of multiple different federal partners, state partners, and NGOs to make sure Teton County remains great.
My company is not running for a seat on the Conservation District. I am running for a seat. And therefore, I'm not going to respond to that question because I consider it irrelevant to the process. Thanks.
Well and good. Next question will be from Meg to Tom. It will come first to you.
Okay. How would you seek to advance your specific conservation district interests?
I think I've done that. Maybe to a point where I might be considered biased, but being a fishery and wildlife biologist, as we deliberated and struggled through the development of the strategic plan that we have and adopted for the Conservation District, my focus and my area of particularly interest had to do with wildlife and fisheries, as well as the interaction with the county on the LDRs, which I have considerable experience in that realm. So those were my particular interests. That's certainly not to say that the other strategic elements that we adopted aren't important to the Conservation District, and more importantly to the public of Teton County. They are, and I'm supportive of those as well.
As far as my specific things that I would like to advance within the Conservation District, when a quality organization is doing a good job, it's really difficult to identify a few things to advance, but further implementation of restoration ecology is something that I've been passionate about. I was the chair of the Greater Yellowstone Coordinating Committee's Terrestrial Invasive Species Subcommittee Restoration Committee. It's a big acronym if I gave it to you all at once. And to me, that's something I've always been passionate about. Designing seed mixes, implementing their seed drilling, getting your fingers dirty, and going back to the site, like I mentioned, out there on South Park Feed Ground, seeing change and being part of change. That's something I'd continue like to take part in.
Okay, the next question will come first to you, Travis. And we'll, Reed, you have a card?
Yeah, I do.
Right,
I have
let's
one
see
more.
if is there anyone who'd like to come up to the mic though and pose a verbal question? If not, Reed, go ahead with your card, please.
Okay. We live in the most diverse place in the handwriting is pretty hard.
Do your best, Reed.
In the, I think, lower 48 states, a place that's experiencing increasing pressure from humans. How will you ensure this place remains so special from the ecological perspective? And I'd like you to be specific about this. What would you like to see happen to stand up to human pressure, the amount of, the number of people who are enjoying our lovely environment?
I think that's multiple different tactics. I think it's being addressed in our community priorities as far as transportation. Less vehicles on the road mean less wildlife collisions. They give the opportunity for wildlife to cross corridors safely with less vehicles on the road. And if more people are using mass transit, that's an additional way that there's less vehicles on the road, less potential for those wildlife collisions. In addition to that, other things that could be addressed is density building within town as opposed to outside of town. If we're gonna build up, it should be within Jackson, and it shouldn't be in the bordering communities or in lands that are already open spaces that are utilized by wildlife or agriculture producers.
Is this within the purview of the Conservation District to address?
I don't think
density?
statutorily it is. I think as a board, we can advocate those sort of ideals to the planning department through our staff. I think that would be the best way to implement those ideas, which that's part of the planning process is zoning and things like that.
Reed, I would second what Travis just said. Statutorily, the Conservation District does not really have a role. That's the county, that's the planning department coming up with regulations to be consistent with the comprehensive plan and approved by the county commissioners. Having said that, there are things that the conservation can and should do and has been doing. Before I was on the Conservation District Board, my wife and I were involved in an organization that she started called the Jacksonville Wildlife Foundation. The fundamental guiding principle and mission of that was compatible coexistence between humans and wildlife in the valley. I took that principle, or brought that principle with me to the Conservation District, and I'm not unique in that. Don't get me wrong, there's other Conservation District supervisors that feel the same way. But we've elevated the importance of that within the organization. We have a wildlife biologist. We have an executive director who's a certified wildlife biologist. Wildlife has a strong program within our strategic plan, and we're doing research or funding research on species that are less known, are of concern, and are not the megafauna that everyone sees and relishes so much. So thank you.
Yeah, I think we have time for one more question. You don't have any more cards?
No, but I have a question of my own.
Well, is there somebody, Sue, would you like to come up and ask a quick question? And this one will go first, Tom, to you.
My name is Susan Dong, and I have a question in that everyone up here has talked about the fact that the Conservation District needs to do a better job of informing the public of what it is you do, how you do it, why you do it, et cetera. So what specific actions would you take to do that?
That's something that the Conservation District has struggled for many years, long before I became involved with it. If people look at their annual tax receipts, property tax, you'll see a 0.9 mil charge on there that funds the Conservation District. You think that people would see that and immediately start questioning, who are these guys, people? What do they do? What are we paying for? But that doesn't seem to happen, and I don't really understand it. We have a strong educational component at the Conservation District. We try to do things. We just sponsored a forum, a candidate forum that dealt with water issues. That's just one of several things that we do annually to kind of bring us front and center. I'm not sure we've been successful, and I don't know how we improve it. We have in the past had coffees, tried to bring in people to on various programs that we're involved in, and we get attendance, but we don't get a lot of coverage, and it's a tough one.
I would, thanks for the question, Susan. I would suggest multiple different media platforms to communicate successes with people. You can tell a compelling story in multiple different, whether it's social media, newspaper, whatever platform you use for media, and whatever platform your target audience is more likely to read, the citizens of Teton County, probably likely being the paper, as well as younger people being social media. Utilizing those platforms to tell success stories, to compel the citizens to take part in the conservation district projects, to have buy-in, to understand where their dollars go and how their money is being invested and how they can take part in those programs. So to me, it would be multiple different platforms of communicating success and engagement with the public through those platforms.
Okay, thanks. We'll now move to the wrap-up and 90-second wrap-up to conclude this section here with our two candidates. And Tom will have the first opportunity to give his 90-second wrap-up.
Well, I'm not going to take 90 seconds. I think I've said everything I need to say here. I'm just pleased to be here. I'm glad that I've been able to be of service to the Conservation District, and I do think I have been. And if by chance you choose to re-elect me to the position, then I will continue what I consider be the good work that I've done so far. So thank you.
Down ballot races are incredibly important in local politics. Less than 50% of the voters voted in the Conservation District Board of Supervisors election the last time it was contested. Please get out and vote, whether it's for myself or whether it's for Mr. Campbell, also a vote for Bailey. Get out and vote for this. It's important. And when it comes up in 2 years to continue to fund, we elect to fund ourselves, or the Conservation District, we elect to tax ourselves. Vote for that. It goes to good work, and we're going to try to get that message out and communicate it, engage you guys with that.
All right, let's thank our candidates. We will have a short intermission now. We will set up with